All right, so today we are talking about imagination. I love talking about the imagination. I feel like this is the main untapped superpower that we all have, and that a lot of people's imagination is like old and rusty and the wheels aren't turning, and we need to get it cleaned up and get the oil in there and get it going again, because you are really only limited by your imagination. Once you really begin to practice and utilize it, you become unstoppable. So it has been said that man can create anything which he can imagine. And man's only limitation within reason lies in his development and use of his imagination. Obviously, his and her. This is from Think and Grow Rich, so the language is old. But if we aren't opening up our imagination, if we aren't trusting it, if we aren't exploring it, and even like exercising the muscle of it, it gets, what's it called when like a limb shrivels up and dies? Detrified? Something fied. But your imagination, it becomes dormant. And you are just in like a repetition. You're on autopilot and you're not going beyond what you're currently experiencing. Our imagination is our tool to move beyond our current reality. And Napoleon Hill talks about in the book that there's two forms of imagination. There's the synthetic, and that's what we are using and what the majority of people are using the majority of the time. This is restructuring or recycling and restructuring of old concepts and ideas. And in the course, the Living Legacy course, when Bob talks about this, he talks about, for example, the chair. You can see a chair and then think, oh, I can improve upon that. I can put two chairs together. I have a love seat, or I can add padding on it and make it more comfortable. You are using your imagination to improve upon something or to change something, but it's still not completely brand new. And for the most part, this is where we will operate. And like, as you are expanding and growing your ability to utilize your imagination, you're going to be focusing most of your efforts on the synthetic imagination, how you're going to, for example, market yourself. There's all kinds of information and stuff about marketing that you can learn and research and utilize, and then you do utilize some of that creativity, your imagination, to think about how you're going to apply that for yourself, how you're going to create your business and all that kind of stuff. But you're not necessarily imagining something completely brand new. Then we have the creative imagination. This is something where we are really tapping into infinite intelligence and the idea of these like new concepts. So a great example of this is when Edison was working on inventing the light bulb, electricity light. And he would lay down or kind of sit, and he would hold a marble in his hand over a bucket. And what he was doing is because nobody had done it before, right? And he had the idea of having, light that you could turn off and on. And so he needed to tune into creative imagination. He couldn't rely on synthetic imagination because there was nothing there before for him to restructure. So we can go deep into this and utilize this ourselves. And what he was doing is when he was asking the question, like, how do I create this? How do I make light that can, be turned on and off and things like this, or however the idea was in his mind. And he was really asking subconscious, he was asking infinite intelligence, he was asking all that is, and getting into a state where we're moving beyond that conscious mind. It's that theta state right before we fall asleep. So he was asking the question and thinking and being in that state. So he's just about to fall asleep. And then as he's just about to fall asleep, the marble would drop into the bucket and wake him up. So he kept keeping himself in that deep level of consciousness in order to get the idea, the new insight, the new bit of information. And this is next level imagination work, which we are all capable of doing. But just so that you have the awareness around that, but for the most part, you will be utilizing your synthetic imagination and also the creative imagination, it requires a lot of desire. Think how much you have to want something to sit there and ask the question and keep yourself in a state where you're like dropping a marble in a bucket to stay in this open mental place in order to get a new idea. Like most people aren't going to go to that extent. They don't want it bad enough. So you have to really, really, really want it, desire it, burning desire to do what it takes to come up with that new idea. The imagination becomes stronger with use. So I invite you to play with it and imagine and spend time dreaming, spend time playing in the magical and in the mystical. For me, I love to do it when I first wake up in the morning. I like to just lay in bed and imagine stuff and think and dream and plan and how am I going to say this, or how can I teach that, or whatever I want to think about. And so many of us have turned this off, and I would say like everybody here in this community are an exception. You're not like the masses, so you're already set apart in terms of your own way of being, and you would be utilizing your imagination more than most, but you can always do it more. You can always practice more and develop this muscle. So your imaginative faculty may become weak through inaction. It can be revived and made alert through use, as Napoleon Hill says. So use your imagination to make plans for the working out of your desire. The moment you complete this, you'll have definitely given concrete form to the intangible desire. This was a very important sentence that Napoleon Hill said. Read it again. Make sure you pay attention to this. These things, they're very simple. They're very simple things, so we will often overlook them because they're simple, and then we miss out on something incredibly powerful. For you to actually just sit down and go into your beautiful mind and imagine, how am I going to achieve my goal? What am I going to do? What's it going to look like? How am I going to do this? And I've given you guys before the example of doing a meditation where you go and you ask your future self. I like to imagine myself going into a place that I really love. I like go to a beach or something, and I see the version of me off in the distance that has achieved everything, or the goal that I want to achieve, and she's walking towards me. And I imagine her energy, my energy, her me energy, as very strong and powerful and confident, successful, all that kind of stuff. And then I ask her, how did you do it? How did you create a company that is doing $100,000 a month or more and is reaching thousands of people all over the world? And then she tells me, and that's coming out of the imagination. So whether you want to look at it as, because you can take whatever perspective you want. You can look at it as like, I'm just imagining this and I'm just making it up in my mind. You can look at it as you're actually going into another dimension and you're experiencing it. It doesn't matter how you look at it, just do it. And then you're going to notice a lot of things open up for you, because you are your greatest guru yourself, asking your own self, going within. Nobody can know you and what you need better than you. It seems easier and better, and it's tempting to always ask somebody else what we should do. But utilizing your imagination to access different aspects of yourself is very powerful. And who says that that's not any more real than what you're experiencing in the physical realm, than what you're experiencing in the imagination? We think that the physical or what we perceive as physical is the ultimate. And I'll tell you right now, that's not the case. So you want to practice using your imagination and connecting, because then you can tap into whatever you want, whenever you want. Napoleon Hill talks about it. I'm not sure if it's in which chapter it's in, but he talks to the council. So he's using his imagination to go into this space, mental space, dream state, whatever you want to call it, to talk to a council that he's made up. So I can't remember who everybody was there. Let's say it's George Washington and Jesus and Gandhi and whatever, all sitting around the table. And then he will ask them questions in terms of if he's having problems or issues or he needs help with something. And this is all done through the imagination, and he gets answers. We're all connected. We are all one. The same way you can just ask yourself a question, you can ask Gandhi a question, because you and Gandhi are the same entity. We're all connected. We are all one. So it is infinitely underestimated, the power of the imagination in order to explore worlds, create new businesses, travel the galaxy, like whatever you want to explore, you have the ability to do it. And the more you practice it, the more you play with it, the easier it's going to get for you and the more powerful your imagination is. And then you write it down. So you take the time to imagine it, and you're practicing it with these things like your goals and your business and what you want to achieve. And then you're going to imagine how you're going to do it, and then you're going to write it down. And then Napoleon Hill says, the moment you complete this, you will have definitely given concrete form to the intangible desire. So you have the goal, you use the imagination to flesh it out, then you write it down, and then you are miles and miles and miles ahead of 99.9% of the population, because nobody writes stuff down. Remember, I think I said this last time, I think it's 3% of people write their goals down. Your chance of achieving the goal when written down goes up by 80%. So there's something about taking it out of the ethereal and writing it down, and with a pen, I suggest blue or purple pen, that you're doing something tangible, bringing it into this physical space and reality. And it's interesting that we don't do this. It's interesting that we don't take our dreams and our goals seriously enough to actually sit down, think about how we're going to achieve it, write it down. And it's not that difficult. Again, these things are simple, not necessarily easy. And because they're simple, we overlook them and don't take them seriously as we should. So whenever that's something to pay attention to, when you're reading through Think and Grow Rich, whenever he says remember, and whenever he says read that again, you really want to pay attention to those pieces in the book and maybe meditate on them and see what other things, what deeper levels of understanding can you get by going through and reading that on a deeper level. So exercise the imagination. When the idea was first planted in my mind by Mr. Carnegie, it was coaxed, nursed, and enticed to remain alive. Gradually, the idea became a giant under its own power, and it coaxed, nursed, and drove me. Ideas are like that. First, you give life and action and guidance to ideas, then they take on power of their own and sweep aside all opposition. This is a beautiful and wonderful thing. And if I look back, I was reflecting on this sentence or on this paragraph. Even with Napoleon Hill, the idea of the book Think and Grow Rich wasn't even his idea. It was given to him by Andrew Carnegie. The idea was planted in Napoleon Hill. And it took him 25 years to release the book. Like, sometimes we see the end picture and we think, oh, wow, that's so amazing what they did, and I can never do it. 25 years. There would have been a lot of time where nothing was really seemed to be happening with Napoleon Hill. He was not making money, and it looked like a pipe dream. Like, it wasn't going to be anything insignificant. Nobody was giving him accolades. Nobody was saying, look at you, how amazing you are. He wasn't deemed successful and all this different kind of stuff. But that idea was there, it was given to him, and then over time, it was nursed and fed and nurtured and all that kind of stuff. Christian just said his apartment also burned down with all of his work, and he had to start from scratch again. Yes, crazy persistence. That is so true. And also, that's a chapter that we're going to get to, is persistence, and we'll talk about that. But it is very much important for us to understand that it's not necessarily an overnight process. And there's lots of stuff along the way. And there's lots of twisting and turning and whatever. But that idea, if we just don't quit, you can tell yourself, I'll quit tomorrow, because tomorrow never comes, right? And you feel like quitting right now, I'll do it tomorrow. But just keep going. That idea, it will eventually take over until to the point where you can't help but do it. So if I look at myself, my journey in entrepreneurship started with network marketing. I started in an Agic with the machine, selling the water machine. And I had this idea of I wanted to help people. I wanted to have people I worked with all over the world. And I wanted, this certain lifestyle and everything like that. And for the first few years, I was very inconsistent with my social media or, with everything. I'd invest money. I'd try some other company. I would hire someone and it wouldn't work and it would fall apart and I would lose all this money. I had to sell my house to pay off all the debt. And then I just got back in debt again. It was just it was a disaster. But there is the idea kind of gets stayed, right? And then it gets to a point where it's well, you can't not do it anymore. Now the idea has grown beyond you. There's people involved with the idea who are now contributing to the idea, and the idea is an entity in and of itself. It's not just you. And now what happens is the idea pulls you, the idea drives you. But where did it start? For me now, I have clients, I have the Living the Legacy thing, I have companies that I'm working with their people, I have investments, I have different things that I'm doing. I can't not do it. It's just going, it's just happening. And there's people that are that come to me and ask for things and are wanting more and all this kind of thing. And it's it begins to be just a flowing out of you. And there's a really great African proverb that describes this process. And the way that it goes, I'm sure it sounds much more poetic in their language, but anyways, do my best. The way it goes is that that when you begin digging for water, you'll start digging and all you're getting is dirt. So you have the idea that I'm looking for water, I want water. So you're digging, and eventually the dirt starts to get a little bit wet as you dig further and further. Then you notice that it's muddy. So you're pulling up buckets. It's still not water. It's still not nice, clean water, but you're getting mud. And then the mud is like, keep pulling up buckets of mud. And as you keep pulling this up and keep doing it and keep tending to that well, the water gets clearer and clearer and clearer. And before you know it, after a certain amount of time of doing this, the water actually begins to gush out of the ground in that place. And what has happened is the earth, the ground or whatever has learned that is a place where to send water because it's being utilized and taken out. It will actually, the underground streams will structure themselves to send the water there. And now you have a gushing well. This is how it works with ideas, with you as a being, however you want to say it. You have the idea, I'm going to build a business and I'm going to do this much money. I'm going to help this much people and I'm going to provide this service. And then you keep pulling out buckets of like, okay, I'm going to do this and try this and put in some effort and put in some energy. And for a while, it's just mud. It's not looking great, but you keep going, you keep nurturing it, you keep digging, you keep fostering it. And before you know it, the water starts to get clearer. And then there's this tipping point where the water of its own volition is just gushing out of you. And in this aspect, it's like your idea is just, and your dream is gushing out of you. You couldn't stop it if you wanted to. Now it's running you and you're just enjoying the ride. You must be willing in those initial stages to keep nurturing it, even when you don't see the evidence yet, even before the water is gushing. Be willing to stay in the imagination. I've talked about this before about being delirious. We have to utilize our imagination to stop looking at the current reality. I'm only seeing mud. Look, I'm pulling up stuff and it's mud. I'm not getting this gushing water of my dream come true. But you got to keep doing it. You got to stay in the imagination. Be like, oh, imagine that water gushing. Imagine how amazing it would be, how it would feel. And I'd be able to, all the people that could drink from this and all the showers we can have and all the plants we can water and all the beautiful things. And you're staying in that feeling of it. And that's what keeps you pulling up the buckets of mud. So that's why we use the imagination to be delirious of who the experience that we'd really love to have, the business that we want, the money that we want, the relationships we want, health that we want, all of it. You got to kind of ignore the physical reality and be delusional and stay in the space. Just as Napoleon Hill says, live in the wish fulfilled. Feeling is the secret. And so that's the power of the imagination. You can literally close your eyes right now and you can imagine you're in Paris standing at the foot of the Eiffel Tower. Who's to say that's not real? And you can feel it. You can feel the emotions, the beauty, the sound of the music in the background. You can picture the shops and everything. Why is that less real than, sitting in your office right now? You can evoke those emotions. You want to go to the Eiffel Tower for the feeling anyways. So you can utilize your emotions to feel it now. Your imagination is your superpower. Stop being so tied to the perceived physical reality that you're seeing with your eyes and touching with your hands, because you are able to create whatever experience you desire with the way that you think. And we just want to touch on this to make sure. So we have their imagination is one faculty of the mind, and Napoleon Hill doesn't go into all of this, the book, but Bob talks about it in the Living Legacy course. Imagination is what we're focusing on here, but we do have memory, will, perception, reason, and intuition. They're all encapsulated in, the faculties of the mind. It's worth having the whole picture, understanding how it all works together in order to support us on our goals and dreams. But imagination is the focus, especially when using the imagination and partnering that with the will to hold is very powerful, and utilizing the power of your perception of how you look at things. I love talking and teaching on perception because that's something that really is another huge superpower for you to choose how you feel in a situation and how you're going to navigate different situations as well. When you use your imagination, you are leaving the tangible physical world and you're going into infinite intelligence or into another dimension, which is no less real than the physical. We can get super deep and interesting on this topic, but just as an example for those who want to open their mind a little bit, is the same way that when you go to sleep, you dream, and then you have this whole experience in your dream. You wake up and you're like, oh, that was just a dream. And you think it's not real. It's just a dream. It is the same for your soul in relation to this lifetime. So you are not your body. You're not your name. You're not your role. You are spirit having a physical experience. Your soul didn't start when you were born. It doesn't end when you die. This is just a blip, the experience of you as spirit. So on the spirit realm, what is happening is you're having a dream. This physical experience is a dream for the soul, we'll put it that way. And for the soul, it feels maybe like 20 minutes. So you're feeling like this lifetime and this physical thing is so real and it's so solid and it is, and it's fact and it's everything like that. It's not. And you are developing your ability to, you're growing in your awareness and your understanding of what's really going on, because we've crossed paths, we're having these discussions, and you, as you're waking up and understanding that this is the process. That's why we're saying use your imagination to let yourself experience beyond what you feel is so fixated in this 3D world, and let yourself not be so rigid in the definition of what is real and what isn't, what is true and what's not, and begin to open yourself up to the exploration of different dimensions, and that you are able to enter and explore those dimensions with your imagination, and they are not less valuable or less important than what seems physical right now. So what you're doing with your imagination is entering these other dimensions as well. This is where we get to go beyond what is currently being experienced in the physical or on the physical plane. I want to do a good job of getting this across, because I know sometimes I don't think people take it as seriously as what would serve you well. Like, as an example, like, I do less of visualizing myself in a specific experience, like visualizing myself opening a house, the keys to my house and whatever. And what I usually do now is I use my imagination to tune into an energy of another person, for example. So if I'm wanting to exude and experience a certain kind of reality, we attract and create what we are. So really the thing that really is the ticket is, who are we being? Who are we feeling as? And what is that vibe that we are exuding? So I use my imagination to imagine myself as, one I've been doing lately is the goddess Isis of Egypt, and tuning into how does that feel? You could pick a queen or something like that, or a king, or a famous person, where you feel into that energy, utilizing your imagination. And now what you've done is you've shifted your frequency onto another level. Instantly, you are that person. Instantly, you are that energy. And now what's going to happen is you're sending out that signal, and you're going to create and attract what's on that frequency. So the more you exercise the power of your imagination, the more you have the power to control how you feel, which is ultimately going to control what you create and experience. All right. So homework for this week is to utilize your imagination. So you can do visualization. You can do, it's even like, I don't know, I need a word for it, but it's like acting visualization. It's not just you don't have to just sit on your couch and imagine it in your mind. You can walk around your house in the character of the version of you that has what you want. So an example would be like, say I'm sweeping the floor, and I used to be like, oh man, the version of me that has what I want wouldn't be sweeping her floor. She'd be having a cleaner sweeping the floor. And that was like an issue for me, that I would be like, wow, I get stuck up on it. And I'm like, how can I put myself in that energy? And I remember hearing or watching a video of Joe Dispenza, and he was talking. He said, he made the comment. He's like, I was doing dishes and I looked out the window and I saw this thing. And I'm like, Joe Dispenza does the dishes? And then I realized wealthy people sweep their floor sometimes. Wealthy people do their dishes sometimes. So then I could feel, and let's say, use the word pretend, that I was the version of myself that's very wealthy, yet she is sweeping her floor. And I'd be like, I'm a very wealthy woman sweeping my floor. I'm so successful. And I was thinking about the businesses I'm doing and everything I'm running. And I was pretending and acting in the moment, using visualization, sort of, but more so imagination in the moment to feel into the energy. So throughout your day, don't just stop at visualization, because if you visualize and it brings you into a certain state, great. But then you feel like shit the rest of the day. Not great. We want to continue on the illusion. We want to continue on the energy throughout whatever we're doing. See if you could do it for an afternoon. Just give it a try. Like, even if you could do it for an hour, we can start with that, but eventually to the point where you could do it the whole day. You could be delusional all day long, feeling like you're making $1 million a day, walking around your house and just in this wonderful and beautiful state of freedom, of success, power, whether you're washing your dishes or doing the laundry or on a Zoom call or whatever. It doesn't matter what you're doing, you're feeling those emotions. So I challenge you to do that. At least do a bit of visualization every day, and then see if you can pick the character you're playing, the version of you that has what you want, and then act as if for an afternoon or a morning or an evening or something. And then if you don't have a vision board, I would encourage you to do that, utilizing your imagination to think about the things you'd like to experience, you'd like to enjoy, have a bit of fun with it. This is something you can have fun with. It's cool and, gets you into your creative mind. It's not so rigid and structured, and you can have fun doing that. So if you don't have a vision board already, that'd be something that would be great for you to do this week. And then the other one is using your imagination to create a plan for the achievement of your goal. So spend some time dreaming, imagining, thinking about your goal and how you're going to achieve it. And then you're going to write it down so that you have that. Put yourself in the 1%. Do what very few do, even though it's so simple. Most people don't do it. So spend some time writing stuff and playing on paper and exploring. And I've given you lots of ideas. We talked last week about stuff with social media. I have Raphael coming and doing another training for you guys. So different strategies and things for you in order to achieve your goals. But there's lots more in your beautiful mind that's specific to you that you can pull out and enjoy. Please do your homework. Please apply. This is another thing we can consume the information, but not actually utilize it, not actually become it. If you read 100 books on nutrition, but you eat McDonald's every day, you're not going to get the results of the information that you're consuming. So even though it's like, it seems maybe it's insignificant or it's not a big deal, these are little things that will honestly make a huge difference for your journey in creating whatever it is that you desire. Be delusional, use your imagination. Who says it's not real? Just play with it. Just have fun. Just put aside your skepticism or anything like that and just do it. What's the worst that could happen? You have fun for a day. It's not detrimental to your health. It's not nothing. There's no meteors are going to rain down from the sky. Just enjoy it and pretend to have fun. And I honestly, the more you do this, the more you're going to realize that's what all the successful people are doing. They're putting on a show. They're pretending. They're in their magic of their mind, living in the dream, in the wish fulfilled. They're not paying attention to the current reality. I think Elon Musk is paying attention to the current reality. His mind's on Mars. Just let go. Let go of fearing what people think about you. Let go of fearing what you can and can't do. Let it go. Let yourself soar. Let yourself just go to other planets. Go to unknown places. And remember the quote at the beginning of the call, you are only limited by your imagination. Really think about that. Really, really think about it. Seriously, just contemplate that for a while and then begin to understand, wow, if I'm only limited by imagination, then what am I actually capable of doing? Because what can you imagine? If you can imagine it, then you can do it. And this can be very, very exciting if you really believe that that's true. And so that might be your first hurdle to get over, is that you don't believe that that's true. And therefore you are limited because you don't believe that that's true. You're not allowing your imagination to expand to the belief that you can have, be, or do anything you desire. And then you'll think I'm crazy if I would say you could grow a new limb. Someone asked Abraham Hicks about this. And I'm like, why? So if we can do anything, could we grow a new limb? And Abraham was like, yes. And then they asked, well, then why haven't we done it yet? And then they responded, well, no one believes that it's possible. So if you've noticed the rates that humans are advancing, the things that we're doing now were never perceived as even remotely possible 100 years ago. But it always comes with there's that first person that will do it. So the first person that broke the record for running a mile in a certain amount of time, for however thousands and thousands of years, it was never possible. Nobody could do it. It was deemed impossible. Then one person did it. And then within a year, a whole bunch of people did it because it was the mind that they believed it was possible. So utilize it to your advantage, use your imagination, and develop that muscle so that you can really tap into your creative potential. And my desire for everybody, when I'm working with my clients or working with anybody, is to get you to the point where you are your own guru and you're not looking to somebody else in order to help you. That you trust yourself to go within and trust yourself to listen to your intuition and your emotional guidance system and the power of your own mind, which is why I do reiterate and reemphasize the exercise of going and asking your future self for advice, for a suggestion on how he or she did what they did. I've done this where I've used muscle testing. So if anybody who's comfortable with muscle testing or you want to play with it a little bit, I've built a business plan using muscle testing of should I email 3 times a week? No. Should I email 4 times a week? Yes. Should I write a book on this thing? No. Should I, like, I just, because it helped, because honestly, muscle testing is there to validate your intuition. It's just kind of a system to support your intuition. You can get to the point where you don't need the muscle testing. You just know what you should do and you listen to it. But it's just that most of us don't trust the intuition. So using muscle testing helps, encourage you and ramp up your belief in yourself. So your imagination, it is the secret for you to get everything. And I really do hope that you take it seriously, that you utilize it and grow in your ability to imagine and dream, and that you understand the value of taking the time to do that. Like I said, I'll lay in bed sometimes for a couple of hours just using my imagination, daydreaming and thinking about all this stuff. I've heard things like Donald Trump, like almost every day in the morning for several hours, just sits and imagines and thinks and dreams up business plans and does all kinds of stuff. So you're actually getting a lot of work done by imagining. Physical work is not the most important work. Hustling and building websites and shoveling dirt and who knows what. We think we can put a lot more value on that. The vibrational, mental, energetic is actually way more productive than actually the physical work that you're doing. If you guys don't have this book, I would encourage you to get it. It's the Think and Grow Rich workbook. So it's obviously have the book and the workbook together, and it's a great way to go through it. All right. Use your imagination this week. Have lots of fun. Play with it. Be playful. Always remember to be playful. Be light about it. Don't get too hard on yourself. And laugh at yourself. And get some flowy clothes. Flowy clothes always seem to help with the delusion of just I'm so amazing. You put on a flowy dress and it does amazing things for you. Men, even a flowy silk shirt. For the guys that are on here or for watching the replay, get yourself a flowy silky shirt. You'll feel like a king. All right? Okay, guys, have an awesome rest of your day. We'll see you next time.
I hope you really enjoyed that video and were able to take away some nuggets that are helping you on your journey. I am deeply committed to my mission to raise the vibration of the world one person at a time. Of course, that starts with me and my own journey and then extends through the teaching and energy and healing work that I do on a day-to-day basis. I see really two angles to come at this journey of evolution for us to raise our vibration so that we can experience abundance and freedom and joy, those loving relationships, those healthy bodies, all those things that you're searching for. It actually is a journey that happens from within. And on the one angle, we come at this from understanding, gaining wisdom, beginning to discover ourselves and who we really are. How does the cosmos work? What is the soul's journey? This is why I teach on YouTube and give videos on my social media in order to gain understanding and wisdom and awareness so that we can logically move ourselves forward. The other angle to come at this is through inner work, through healing, through what has been coined as shadow work. This is why I do energy work and I use things like the emotions code, like bioresonance, do subconscious reprogramming, brain entrainment, all these beautiful and wonderful things in order to do work inwardly to shift our vibration. When I say shift our vibration, you naturally, at spirit soul level, vibrate at a very high level with perfect abundance and freedom and joy and all those things. But what happens though through life experiences, we tend to hold on to things like limiting beliefs, traumas, fears, doubts, anxiety, stress, all this kind of stuff that's not you. So our journey of raising our vibration is actually a journey of letting go of that which is not us. And so that is the other angle that I utilize in order to help people raise their vibration into these places that feel really, really good. What happens over YouTube though, or over these videos, is that there can be a disconnect. You can't necessarily talk to me or ask your questions. And so you sometimes feel like you're alone. So I'm really excited to announce that I have a membership where we can meet once a week and you're able to ask me questions as well as work with other people that are like-minded and on this journey together of raising our vibration, of manifesting lives that are beautiful and wonderful, that we're so happy and excited to be alive, living our passions and doing the things that bring us a lot of joy. On those calls, I will actually work with you individually as well. For people who are wanting help, I can release negative trapped emotions right there in person. For those who would like that done, I can use my bioresonance technology in order to read your frequency right then and there and actually send you frequency that will help bring more balance for you as well. And you can also, again, ask your questions, and I share even more tips and tricks than I have available currently on YouTube on how to heal the shadow on the day-to-day when you're on your own and I'm not there with you. What are these things and practices that you can do that ultimately raise your vibration? As we shift and release that which is not us, all the money and the relationships and the love and the health, it just is a byproduct of that. It's a symbol of the shift that's happening within yourself. So if this membership is something that sounds exciting to you, you want to connect with other like-minded people, you want to connect with me and grow in community together, there is a link in the description where you're able to get more information on that and sign up, and I would love to see you there.